lose a primary, your career is going to end. So the question is this going to change? Is that basic dynamic going to change, Evan, do you think, in 2014? Are we going to start to see some of those red states on that map expanding their Medicaid and saying, yeah, this is a good deal for our state, this law is here, we might as well do this?
Well, I mean, we see one. You know, Virginia is now controlled by Democrats.
Well, because the Democrats...
They might change it, but I mean, the larger issue about what happens in 2014 with Republicans and Obamacare is totally different ballgame now. The law exists. It's a fight now about implementation. It's a fight about how health care works versus a fight about whether the law will go into effect, which is what we had last year, digging down to this government shutdown. Everything else that we have was all about trying to prevent this law from coming into, you know, into existence. Now it's in existence. Now we got to talk about how to make it actually work. And, you know, the Republicans are having a hard time sort of rallying around an alternative at this point. They haven't really figured out their messaging yet. The stuff that we're talking about earlier, this religious exemption stuff, that's something they can all get on board with right now. But as opposed to at what to do next, now that there's an Obamacare, they haven't really figured it out. And until they do, it's going to be tough for them, I think, to really figure out how to run on this. It just seems like
glitches and such. It seems like a piecemeal thing where it's just sort of like something comes in the news, some anecdotally, you know, oh, the website's not working. Okay, that's
Obama's
the huge.
bullying the nuns.
That's the, right, and now it's the Little Sisters of the Poor. I mean, Josh Green at Business Week was writing about this, and he said basically he was saying the Republicans have put themselves in a trap for two reasons on this. He said the first was the decision not to participate in shaping the policy, the choice to oppose and obstruct the bill at every turn in the hopes of killing it rather than steer it in a more conservative direction. That was as it was being enacted in 2009, 2010. He said the second big strategic bet was that Obamacare could still be stopped even after it was signed into law by stopping Obama himself from winning a second term. That ship sailed a year ago. So where are we right now?
They have first of all, when we were trying to pass the Affordable Care Act, they had no idea. They had no comprehensive reform that addressed the big issues of cost control, getting everyone on board, and improving quality. They still don't have a big idea, and they now have actually an important contradiction, which is, oh, we don't want pre-existing condition exclusions. We want insurers to take everyone. All right, if you're going to hold that, which is very popular with the American public, as you pointed out, you have to have the mandate. They're inextricably linked. They have to go together. So if they're going to support the first, they don't know what to do because they don't like the mandate idea, and I think that's going to hem them in. So they're never a suitable alternative policy. And without a suitable alternative policy, you can't fight something that's working okay, even if not great, with nothing. You need something as an alternative, and they've never had an alternative. Or to the extent that they have an alternative, it's very unpopular, which is about getting rid of the tax exclusion and giving people a $5,000 voucher. Well, a $5,000 voucher for a family of four doesn't get you insurance that costs
$15,000. The government shutdown over defunding Obamacare ended up becoming about this like medical device tax or something. That became the big principle that was at stake.
Well, I think the problem is that their rhetorical problem, too, is that there are fundamentally conservative ideas underpinning the Affordable Care Act. It involves a lot of state autonomy. It involves purchasing from the private market insurance. I think when it comes to the Medicaid expansion, it's going to be really interesting because you do have, like John Kasich, you do have Susana Martinez, Chris Christie, that have taken a middle ground on this, how much that's going to become a litmus test for them. For the ones that are holding strong against the Medicaid expansion, the real problem is that the people who are impacted by that don't have the political capital of, say, the individual market folks who had their plans canceled. So unfortunately, that's not a demographic that Republicans really care about going forward.
Well, but there is one group that does care about the expansion of Medicaid, which is important, and those are hospitals. Hospitals very much care. They put a lot of pressure on. I mean, for example, in Pennsylvania, Corbett's trying to find this middle ground, particularly because it's a very big medical state in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of pressure on him to find a middle ground. My own view is once we pass the 2014 election, you're going to see a slew of states coming on because they want the money, the 100% funding for Medicaid, and then I think across the end of the decade. You have to remember, history's important here. It took till 17 years after the passage of Medicaid for the last state to adopt Medicaid, Arizona. Yeah. So it'll take some time. By the end of the decade, all states will do it.
And the other thing is we talk about John Kasich in Ohio. So now John Kasich has a Tea Party primary challenger this year. So that'll be a test of, you know, is that something that's going to cause him problems, or does he prove that, hey, you can do this and you can still get 88% in your primary? We'll find out. I want to thank MSNBC contributor Dr. Zeke Emanuel.
Thank you.
MSNBC.com reporter Erwin Carmon for joining us here today. Remember that historic break.